also like to say that our objective is to highlight the Christian hero, also to enjoy our gospel showcase, and to dwell into and broach some of the deepest subject matters in our communities at our community meeting. We would like to ask if there's anyone that you may know whose story, whose life can be shared with our community, and to be a blessing to them as well, please let us know. And also, if there's a subject matter that you'd like to hear more about that's going on in our communities, please contact us. Contact us at 770-256-8764, 770-256-8764. Again, we thank you, and please continue to pray for God's grace in motion. Hello, once again, welcome to Grace in Motion Ministries. I'm Charles Womack, I am your host, and want to thank you again for allowing us into the privacy of your home. You've been allowing us into your home for quite a while now, and we really do appreciate it. Of course, as you know, we talk about the Christian hero. We talk about community concerns. We also like to bring you inspirational showcases of talents in the community. We're going to be bouncing around on other concepts as well as time progresses as we enter this new season. However, today we do have an excellent Christian hero who's going to be talking about a community concern. It's a concern that oftentimes we overlook or we give titles that are unjustified. And that is the concept of addiction. And I'm sure you say, oh my goodness, now what does that mean? And now he's finna go into my own environment and start calling out some things that I'm aware of as far as associations. But that's all right, because I have an expert here that's going to be helping us to better understand what this concept of addiction is all about. And that is my beautiful sister, who's also a leader in her church, which is Bethany Chapel in Rome, Georgia. She's also an addiction counselor coupled with a refugee a missionary. She works with persons from Haiti, all over the city of Atlanta. And so therefore, no other due delay, I'd like to introduce you to my great, beautiful guest, Christian hero, Sister Galett. I was going to say the first name, Mariana Galett.
Yes.
It's a pleasure, my dear. Thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure for being here.
All righty. Now let's go ahead and get started with the interview, because this is such an intense subject matter. You know, first of all, I guess I'm going to ask you this, and I know we had been talking about another way to get this thing started, but I think before a person could even get into the concept of addiction, the question is, what is addiction? In your own words, what do you believe the concept of addiction is all about?
Okay. Number one, I want to put this right out.
Okay.
Addiction is more than chemical dependency. Addiction can be a way of thinking.
Yes.
You know, you also have addictions with gambling. You also have addictions with sex.
Yes.
You also have addictions with gossiping.
Yes. We go on and on.
Yes, you can go on, you know.
Okay.
So my book is really about all of these addictions.
Yes.
They're dysfunctional.
Yes.
And I'm talking about becoming functional.
Okay.
And I'm also talking about becoming functional in the concept and in line with Christianity.
Okay, and that's beautiful, and the reason I say that is because, you know, you're right, addiction covers so many areas. Some of us are addicted to depression, you know what I mean, negative thinking, you know, all of this judging, you know, it's just so many things. And so I appreciate you putting that out so persons can think on another level, and it's not always about a chemical or a substance. So my next question is, usually persons that enter this field of addiction, becoming a counselor in it, are persons who may have been exposed to this concept early in life. My question is, your understanding has become keen. Your affiliation apparently goes way back. Tell us, where did your origination begin when it comes to the concept of addiction?
When I entered the concept, I was sort of born into it.
Yes.
And I didn't recognize it as an addiction.
Okay.
It was just people who drank, and they drank too much.
Okay.
And they messed up their funds. And they kind of messed up lives.
Okay.
But later on, after I had become an RN, and I had a friend who came to Dayton, Ohio, and she wanted me to take her to Wright State University. And I was going to help her get in there because she wanted to pursue further education. A strange thing happened. The man started talking to me,
Okay.
you know, and I'm saying, I'm not here, you know, to get the education. It's her.
Right.
But he just kept on. He just kept on, and so he told me about this master's in counseling, and he named several areas, and then he named chemical dependency.
Yes.
And I said, oh, that sounds like something that should be up my line. And in the church that I was attending, I was a health and temperance leader. So that was right in line with it.
Okay.
So that's how I stumbled into it. And I rather would say, God chose me for
Okay.
that, not
Okay.
me choosing it.
Okay, okay, and that's beautiful because everyone has something that they have been put here to do, and you know sometimes other people see it in us when we do not see it in ourselves.
True.
You
Very
see,
true.
Yeah, it really is, and they enlighten you. I remember a long time ago, one person used to ask me, "Are you in the ministry? Are you in the ministry? Are you in the ministry?" And it's like, well, no, 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 and then before you know it, I begin to get the calling that I'm to be doing something for the Lord, and sure enough, now after 25 years, we see what they saw when I did not. My question to you, the next question, being very pertinent in the fact that, you know, addiction, you know, you have persons that are addicted to things, but my question is, as persons become addicted, we realize that is a process to become addicted, because once upon a time we were innocent, is that right?
True.
You see,
True.
and if we now are violated and polluted and to the point of being addicted to something that is not healthy for us, I want to know, can we wake up tomorrow morning and all of a sudden addiction has been taken from us? Or is that too a process to come from the negative to the positive?
In most cases, addiction, to come out of addiction is a process.
Okay.
Because it's not only a physical process, but it's also an emotional, mental,
Yes.
and spiritual process.
Yes.
But then sometimes it can happen just like that.
Okay.
And a person that I can think of was the person who started Teen Challenge, which is a program, I don't think it's here in Georgia, but it's pretty near throughout the United States, and it's a very good program.
Yes.
This man had been a heroin addict for years. And most of the time when you first start an addiction, it feels good, but then it's hard to find it. Then you start chasing that high. And after a while, you can't even get high anymore.
Okay.
But you just do it just to be normal, just to feel halfway decent. So one time he just said he was going to take himself out because he was tired of being hooked on this stuff.
Right.
So he took an overdose, but he really didn't want to go.
Okay.
And he started praying. And a miracle happened. He came out of it. He never went through any withdrawals because usually you do have to go through withdrawals.
Okay.
But he didn't. And he started his program, and it's all over the nation.
Okay.
I do not think it's here in the state of Georgia, but I know quite a few of the northern states, and it's very strong in California, the state of Ohio, where I practice as a counselor,
Yes.
New York. And it's not a little 3 months program. It's usually a year or
Okay.
so. But I have seen some very good results where people really found out their purpose in life.
Okay, and you know, interesting, and I want to take this a little deeper here, and that because we want to look at this from a broad perspective, and that the viewing audiences, they're listening and they're saying, okay, well, I need to, because when I counseled as well, you know, for many years, and one of the things that I learned and I would share as an illustration is hypothetically this chair here, or let's just say the table there. You know, if I remove one of those legs that table has been dependent on for a long time, such as we would remove drugs or an addiction, what would happen to that table?
It'll fall.
It will fall. So in other words, what I'm going to have to do to keep that table standing is to what? Put something under it.
Correct.
Something that is just as dependable So no longer am I dependent on that leg I remove. I'm now dependent upon what I just placed on it. My question is, do people sometimes remove something negative and replace something else that may be just as detrimental if they are too addicted to it? Let me give you an example. I'm trying to make this quick. Relationships. Say, hypothetically, we were in a relationship. You were not good for me. And I removed you from my world. And then I meet Jane, and I go into that relationship because she seemed to be a better person for me. But do I take me with me, knowing that I have some addictive mental attitudes?
This is where a self-inventory is very important.
Okay.
You need to know why.
Okay.
What makes you tick? And at the same time, you need some guidelines.
Okay.
And I really push those guidelines that come from the Bible.
Okay.
Christian principles.
Okay.
And you need some positive people in your life who are going to be honest with you so that you can break that, because what they call it in the chemical dependency world is stinking thinking.
Okay, yes.
You have to get rid of that
That's right.
thinking. So it's not only the physical part, you have to address the whole person.
Okay, okay, okay,
How you spend your time, how you
Okay.
eat,
Okay.
how you do everything.
okay, okay.
But you have to know what you're doing wrong in order to correct it.
Yes,
Because the reason you ended up where you were is because you didn't know
right.
what you didn't know.
Right, right, right. Now, this is another question. One more angle, one more shot at this. I'm gonna come out, and you're giving me exactly what I want, because what we're doing is we're enlightening those who are listening. Now, listen, that's going from one person to another person. Let's say I stop doing some of the things. Say I'm no longer promiscuous. Say I'm no longer on the corner drinking and smoking, and I decided that I'm gonna now go to church. Okay, but now that I'm in church, and I'm bringing me with me, but I'm taking me to the church house now, and I'm not just going to church on Sunday. I'm going to church every day, every night, 24/7. Now, is something good, but can I be too addicted to something good too that can hurt me in other aspects of my life?
Let's see what the key to it.
Okay.
It's not just the church.
Okay.
You go to church because of what it's there for. It's to bring you
Yes.
closer to Christ.
Okay.
Well, you have to read His Word. And then His Word has to become a part of your life.
Okay.
And when it becomes a part of your life and your decision making, you become a new person.
Okay. Okay.
So the old you goes away. The old man is gone, and
Okay.
a new man has been brought forth.
Okay. Now, let's work this thing. We finna get deep here. I ain't mad at you. But okay. Now let's just keep it real. We're on TV, so we got to give it up. I've seen some not just pew people fall, but those that are behind the pulpit fall. They're new creatures. I've seen and heard on television where a devout believer, Christian, killed his wife and his family and him too. You see, so I guess I really want to get a better understanding here now that, this thing called addiction, can we take that into something good and make it bad? Or is that good thing supposed to transform us all of a sudden? Because the word said we're a new creature. Does that mean that all of a sudden the old sin nature is gone? Or is it saying that we're now open for some of the great things that are available if we take them in on a consistent basis?
You said the key. You have to
Okay.
take it in on a consistent basis.
Okay.
There's a character in the Bible that I'm sure everybody knows. And God said he was a man after his own heart.
Okay, I know that.
David.
Yes.
David was a murderer. He was an adulteress.
Yes.
He just did horrendous things.
Yes, he did.
But David always acknowledged his mistake.
Okay.
He knew where he went wrong. And he asked for forgiveness.
Yes.
And God forgave him.
Okay.
So with human beings, everybody can fall.
Okay. Yes.
And I don't care how great a preacher you're supposed to be or what have you. So it has to be an ongoing, daily,
Okay, thank you.
24/7.
Okay.
And it's not all done in a church setting.
Yes.
Some it's in your closet setting, or it could be while you're driving down the street, or it could be just before you have to meet up with a challenge. It's all the time you have to be relying on the Holy Spirit to lead you and guide you, and not leave that behind.
And it sounds that like we must really work on not allowing other persons. See, I think that oftentimes it's about how we're being perceived. You know what I mean? I want everyone to know that I'm no longer doing the old negative things I used to do. And so therefore I want to put on this new suit. I want to put on this new aura. I want to show that I'm hanging out with other persons. But when I get home, I realize I'm just as lonely and scared and sad, and I'm craving for those negative things I used to do. Is it not also about honesty to self? Taking that searching inventory, not worried about what others are thinking or how they perceive us, but how we know who we are inside.
You know, my mother told me this when I was a kid. Nobody is going to like you all the time.
Okay.
The only one you are to strive to please is please God. Because people, we don't have correct views. We have problems ourselves.
Yes.
So you don't try to please anybody but God. And when you're pleasing Him, you generally please everybody else.
Okay. Now you wrote this book. Great book. I enjoyed it tremendously. It's actually a workbook helping a person to grow out of these negative dispositions of addiction. It's entitled Good Morning, Good Morning. Now, I found that to be a very catching and ear-opening concept. Now, and in the way I perceived it it's like wake up morning, you know, the M-O-R-M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G, wake up is another morning. Good morning, good morning. Let's do something about this. It's a new day. Now, that was my perception. What do you mean, good morning, good morning?
Well, morning is so like a depression.
Yes.
It is deep into something that can be destructive or harmful.
Okay.
But when you look at daylight, that's a new day. That's hope. Things are brighter. There's a future. There's a vision that you can come through another day.
Okay.
And what you were saying about others, this is why an inventory of yourself is necessary. You need to know why you went wrong. That, you know, something you were doing wasn't right. And sometimes we learn these things from our families.
Yes.
And not everybody is fortunate to come from a good, wholesome family. But every family, I would say, will have some dysfunction in it.
Right, absolutely.
And you have to, although like a battered wife, will usually marry a man because that's familiar.
Right.
That will batter her. The child will. And so that's what's familiar. So a lot of times you have to undo all this. And this is why I'm saying, again, surrounding yourself with positive people. Surrounding entering yourself the Word of God, but not only just letting it, reading it, but acting it. Really put it into practice.
Okay.
Just reading it is not good if you're not going to put it into practice.
Absolutely.
You have to put it into practice, and you have to surround yourself with positive people so you can see some good role models before you.
Okay. And you know, one thing too, I know oftentimes persons, you know, they don't feel love unless they have been abused or slapped around or hollered at. What if, you know, that's my upbringing? What if I'm the kind of person that, you know, if you don't raise your voice at me, it tells me you don't care about me. And if you don't care about me, you don't love me. So I need you to holler at me here. I need you to slap me. I need you to do something what I am used to doing. Now, I'm trying to understand if that's an addiction and it's unhealthy, but it's my understanding and my reality. How do I break that connection of need?
You have to know that you have that problem first.
Okay.
Then you have to know that you have to relearn. And that was dysfunction.
Okay.
And then you learn to be calm and not to have people scream and holler at you in order for you to do the right thing.
Okay. But that's scary though.
Yes, change is scary within itself.
It's hard. It sounds like it's hard.
It is difficult. It is difficult. And this is where you just have to trust in the Lord and take a risk, have faith, however you want to put it. You got to step out there and just do it.
And it sounds like I need to be by myself for a while. You know what I mean? It sounds like I'm not ready for anything new or anyone new, but if I'm going to go through changes by myself, and it's some scary changes, do I have the potential, the capacity to do such a thing?
Again, I said you need those supportive people. You
Okay.
need to identify supportive people to help you go through this process. And yes, sometimes you do need to be by yourself. You need to be by yourself in prayer, in meditation, in study. And as God sees you need it, he will reveal to you what you need to know.
Okay.
It's just the idea. You got to walk into that light as he gives it to you.
Okay. Now, this is interesting. Excuse me. But you talked about in the book looking back, and now that gives me multiple perspectives here, because I recall maybe about 10 years ago. It was some hard times then. I was trying to hold on to my situation, and my job situation was not good, and I had put all my things in storage. And then it got to the point where the rent was due for the storage. And I could not come up with the rent, and I ended up losing all of my memories. I'm talking about yearbooks, my degree, my plaques, my pictures, photo albums, things that always helped to sustain me when I look back on these things. But I use that as a positive. I said, you know what, Charles, you've lost the past. You have no choice now but to look to the future. And so that's what I began to do, and I made that my objective. Now, from that perspective, I thought looking back was not good. Now, another scenario. I think next month, I have my 30th class reunion. Now, that's looking back. I've never been to a reunion before as far as my class. I was athlete of the year. They're all calling me now, wanting me to come. That's looking back, but I think that's a good thing. In addiction and recovering from addiction, is looking back good or is it bad?
Okay, looking back, now I can't use your example.
Okay.
Okay, but if you're looking back, say like you're a gambler,
Okay.
or alcoholic or a drug addict, they often look back and say, oh man, I had a ball.
Right.
They have a real misconception of what a good time was. And that's not good to look back to.
Okay.
Because that just leads you back into that old life. That's why I say you need to be forward and a positive. But if you look back in your loss and do an inventory and figure out what you were doing wrong and the solutions of how to correct that, that's fine.
Okay, very good. Now, in the process of doing that, looking for roots to correct, we talk about also decisions and actions. Decisions are difficult to make. I mean, they were hard to make. Normally, when we made our decisions under the concept or umbrella of addiction, those decisions were not healthy decisions. Normally, when we are in an addictive state of being, we are probably making more decisions on emotions. How difficult it is to make the hard decision, because see, be mindful, it's hard to break old habits. And so if we're trying to break old habits and make new decisions in reference to the benefit of our future, how difficult is it? I mean, do we feel like we need to run and get everybody else's opinion? You see what I'm saying? Because I don't know if I can make the right decision because I never did in the past. When do I start trusting myself?
Okay. First, you need to know how you got in the situation and do some self-inventory. Then have some people that you can trust to be truthful with you, and ask them to help you through this process. Okay? And then you begin to look at all your alternatives. And if it's something that is in accordance with spiritual principles, then go ahead and make that decision. Decision making is difficult and it's hard. And sometimes you might have a little rough time putting it into action.
Okay.
Like say a new career.
Okay.
You may have to go through a little bit of hard times, but you have to keep a positive, thinking in your prayer life. Keep thinking positive and having positive people around you. You don't need any negative people around you when you're trying to make a decision of change.
Okay. And you know, you say also actions. Now, actions, the decisions sometimes, well, first of all, decisions are hard. Actions are harder.
Yes.
You see,
Yes.
I've decided I'm going to go and seek counsel. I've decided that I'm going back to church. I've decided that I'm going to get out of this unhealthy relationship. But to do it means that I have to now take a step forward. I have to tell people some things that they're not ready for. I have to now do some things that I have not done in the past. Because decisions are hard. How do I actually take the action to the next level, not being being mindful that it may be affiliated with my old stinking thinking?
I look at it this way. When I'm trying to make a decision, I find people who have expertise in the area that I'm trying to make a decision in.
Okay.
Okay? If I'm trying to make a decision about finances, I'm going to find somebody who knows about it.
Okay.
If I'm trying to make a decision about my health, I'm going to find myself a health professional. If I'm trying to make a decision about a relationship, I'm going to find somebody who knows the person that I want to be related to, or who I want to develop a relationship with. Also, I would like to find a couple who seem to be happy together, and ask for their opinion, and would try to get this person that I want to be involved with to visit them and get some outside opinion. And one thing that it doesn't always work, because people are not always truthful. I want to know your background. I want to know what kind of home you came from. I want to know how you relate to your mother, to your father, and to everybody around you.
And that's deep. That's you know, and it kind of challenges me, and it's really good information for the viewing audience when they're entering new relationships. You know, it's almost like today, before you can purchase anything, they do a background check.
Right.
You see, and oftentimes we do not do background checks on people we enter relationships with. You know, and that's why persons oftentimes say they're not the same person they were when I met them. Well, they were. You just didn't do the background check.
Right.
You see, and that's because, you know, oftentimes I think we're so afraid to find out the truth because of our own codependency. I like you. I want this to work. You're smiling at me, you're encouraging me, but I don't know who you really are.
That's true. And you can't trust first impressions.
Yes.
First impressions, sometimes, you know, maybe that person is uncomfortable. Maybe they're shy, but maybe they really are a very nice person. But they can't come across with that suave speech that you like to hear.
Right.
So you have to take the time to really get to know a person.
Right.
And I know a lot of times women like to talk about themselves. I think most of us should spend some time listening to that other person. I have been divorced for a long time. And I always say, before I get into a relationship, I'm going to take it by my father first. And I'm talking about my Heavenly Father.
Yes.
I'm still single.
I know.
Because he hasn't said yes yet.
The green light.
You're right. And because I listen to what the man says. And some men don't even realize what they're telling me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And let me ask you this. This just came to my mind here. And what I think I'm hearing and feeling is that we have to really be careful of whom we're dealing with in all aspects. Do you believe that people oftentimes will play on your weaknesses and be also intimidated by your strength? That's why certain people will put out this aura of strength, you know, so others will be more intimidated and submissive too. Do you believe people can see that spirit and use the forces they have to control the next person they're involved with?
I most certainly do. And you have to be careful of that. That's why I'm saying that when it comes to relationships, we need to spend a lot of time listening. Even like when you're going for a job.
Yes.
sometimes you figure they're interviewing you, but you need to interview them
Yes.
to find
Yes.
out what the expectations are,
Yes.
what somebody is really, saying.
Yes, yes, yes. And one day you and I are going to have to sit down and talk about the concept of temperaments. You see what I'm
Yes,
saying?
yes,
You and I, we
yes.
got to do that, because that's so major process.
Yes, it
the
is.
sanguine, the phlegmatic, and the choleric, and the melancholy. Because if you are melancholy, and I know you're always crying, and I'm a choleric, and I want to control you, I'm gonna put my overall force out to keep you submitted.
Yes,
You see,
yes.
Flag laying back, analyzing it all, sanguine bouncing around, and people do non-verbally interpret those strengths and weaknesses, and they play on those oftentimes as well. Question. Now, and this is what I want to ask. This is real interesting here. The concept, the search is on. That's what you talk about. That's a process. What do you mean by the search is on?
I mean, digging into yourself and finding out what you're all about. And sometimes in doing that, you have to ask others to help you, people who know you well. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to believe everything they say, because they really don't know what makes you tick.
Yes.
What moves you to do the things you do.
Okay. Okay.
So, but you do have to dig into yourself. That's
Awesome.
self-inventory.
Okay, wonderful. I knew this time would go by so swift. I didn't get to have a question. I always say that because the guest is so phenomenal. And I must close out just by saying we talk about the cage door open. We also have something called Finally